All right. Um, this is kind of a response to regular guy training, average guy training. I don't know. The little guy that sounds a little bit like Ben Shapiro has a pretty decent channel, very large channel. Has put out content that I do like. So, I mean, he has made some entertaining content with not too many wrong points. But this is just addressing his Griffin 1-8 first focal plane. I forget what the name of the reticle is, but I have that scope. I've been using that scope now for probably 6 months. And his tabletop review, I think was, yeah, he basically trashed on the Optic. And I would just tell you that majority of what he said is absolutely wrong. And I'm going to explain and prove, at least from someone who's been using this Optic, why I think he's wrong. So, first of all, to get a 1-8 first focal plane at that price range at around $500, there's not many on the market. Okay? You can go with like a primary arms. I don't even think Vortex makes a first focal plane 1-8. Maybe the Strike Eagle. I don't know if they have a first focal plane 1-8 Strike Eagle. I think it's second focal plane, but it is not a lot of affordable first focal plane 1-8 optics. You're looking at Leopold, Trijicon, EOTech makes their 1-8 is a second focal plane. It's a hard task to make a 1-8 in first focal plane. So you don't have that many. I believe the three options that I've looked at, and I have two of the three, is the 1-8 Arkin, okay, and then the Griffin 1-8 first focal plane, and the Gunner Optics 1-8 first focal plane. And the Gunner looks nice. I have the Arkin and I have the Griffin, and I prefer the Griffin over the Arkin. And I'll tell you why. The Reticle is a lot less busy than the Arkin, and the Arkin has like a circle of death like the EOTech. However, when you're on, say, anything besides 8X, that big round black circle is visible. So it's covering up, already looking through a tube and having limited field of view. This black circle is covering up some of your field of view, which I don't like. Overall, it is a good optic as well. And it's a little cheaper than the Gunner and the Griffin, but it's usable. So I'll say that the Arkin is a very usable optic. It's also a 34 millimeter tube, and it's heavier. The Griffin is a 30 millimeter tube, a lot lighter, a 1-8 first focal plane at a great price. Okay. Are you getting the best glass in the world? No. I mean, and you shouldn't expect it to have the best glass in the world. However, I'm going to give you a story about the glass. Is just yesterday, I was out at the range. I'm shooting, I actually moved the optic to a different rifle, so I was re-zeroing. And I was shooting out to 400 yards. I've shot out to 400 yards, a 12x12 silhouette with not 16-inch barrel, but just a 12.5 or a 13.9 many times. And I'm able to hit it consistently with cheap ammo, PMC, Winchester, White Box, Frontier. And by consistently, I mean like I may miss 1 out of 10. That being said, I was shooting right next to my buddy who has a 1-10, the EOTech Voodoo. Okay. I don't know if his glass was dirty or not, but I preferred my Griffin glass over when I looked through his glass. And I even preferred my reticle at max magnification over that reticle, because again, these giant circles and rings that are thick, they just take up field of view. And when you're referencing anything for a hold and you're saying, Well, every time I'm at 375 or 400, it's between these two. And I know if I hold it right there, I'm hitting dead center. So when you have something thick, it just changes a little bit of your reference in your mind. That to me, or it covers up your field of view. Now, in optics in general, like what this guy did in his review did a tabletop review, right? And I noticed when I'm looking through my optic, especially the Griffin, in the house and at close distances, and I'm increasing a magnification across, 20, 15 yards, with LED lighting or indoor lighting and light bouncing all around. It does not look as good as if you're outside and you're just looking at something that's lit up by the sun. So even with some red dots, you can get some, like if you have a overhead LED with a red dot and you're, say, dry firing, if you have an LED light right over your head, you can get like weird images in the glass and light bouncing off the glass and just different things that it's obviously not as clear as if you're just out in the daytime or even if you're out at night because you don't have all this light bouncing around. So these were just some things I wanted to talk about because I love the Griffin 1-8 optics. Shout out to Griffin Armament. I run their Mark II lowers. Absolutely phenomenal lower receiver. And I would like to get more of their products. But I have to wait on some of those. And I'm not saying that because I want them to send me any products. I bought the Griffin scope. I really enjoy it for a couple things. I want to keep my gun light. I run an acro on top. I have a 12.5, so a small Recce GPR, and I have the capabilities that I want. I have magnification for observation purposes, for taking more precise shots, for taking a more confident shot to pull that trigger at a distance when I have that magnification. I can hit out to 400 yards with just a red dot, but I prefer having magnification. And overall, this optic has served me very well. I'm just going to address one other thing. Yes, when you have a first focal plane, your 1X is not going to be that good. If I could recommend the only change that would make this optic really good is if they could brighten the illumination and put full stadia lines all the way out at the reticle, because the stadia line stops short when it's 1X. So you just have center stuff and the illumination isn't too bright. And also the reticle is not very pronounced, which is what I like when I'm shooting at distance. So I wouldn't change the reticle at all. I would just try to make the center brighter, and I'd put stadia lines so you could use the stadia lines as a reference point. Other than that, I love that optic. Griffin Armament, thank you for making a fantastic optic. I highly recommend it to anyone who actually wants first focal plane, who doesn't want to run 1 to 6 second focal plane or 1 to 8 second focal plane, and wants to keep their gun light and be able to make shots. So with that being said, I think he's wrong, completely wrong about pretty much everything he said in there, besides maybe that the 1X is not very usable, but I run a red dot on top and I use that very well, even at close ranges, even with a 3-inch holdover. So do what you do, guys. This is your boy Red Dawn. Later.